Watching movies, jamming out. K-Flix 198.4 Fiction Radio.
Welcome back to K-Flix Fiction Radio. And this week, I'd like to start off with a joke. Knock, knock, Dustin.
Who's there?
It's the new Main Street Singers. That's right. We're talking about the 2003 Christopher Guest movie, A Mighty Wind.
And hopefully by the end of this, you won't be saying, hey, what happened? I'm going to start right off by saying it is a damn shame that Fred Willard is not really involved in any of the music of this film, because every second that he is on screen in this is something special.
It is really, really funny. The look that he has with that spiky hair, almost like the lead singer of The Offspring.
Totally.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Well, he's a really sad character if you look into it at all. Like the Variety magazine, when he glosses over it when he's talking about his TV show. He said it only lasted a year, which is a good thing. But if you look at the freeze frame, it says like canceled after 4 miserable episodes.
This movie is insanely detailed with backstories for every meticulous little thing and signs in the background. It is so layered with references and humor.
It's so much. For one of the bands, at least, it's a backstory that goes back 20 years from then, 40 years from now. Yeah, because, Shawn, it's been 20 years since this movie came out, as of last year.
Super crazy. 21 years since A Mighty Wind. I remember watching this movie in the theater when it came out.
I don't think I caught this one in the theater, but man... Whenever I saw it, I think I knew then, and I definitely know now, this is pretty close to a perfect movie.
Christopher Guest has so many banger movies. If you're not familiar, he was involved with the writing of Spinal Tap, which was directed by Rob Reiner. He didn't direct that one, but wrote and directed Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, all kinds of really great, awesome mockumentary style movies. This one's my personal favorite.
I don't know if I can say this confidently, but I feel like this is kind of considered his opus. Like, this is the one.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Do you not get that sense?
I feel like Best in Show has the most rabid fan base from his movies that are not Spinal Tap.
That are not Spinal Tap. Yeah, since, like you said, he didn't direct that one. Although, I mean, that his genius is coming up with these characters.
Yes.
And
of course.
Everyone involved with this had been working together in some capacity leading up to this movie. You know, some of them for decades and decades, like the members of the Folksmen.
Who are also the members of Spinal Tap.
Yeah. They have, over the course of those 20 years, developed a really smooth working relationship, and one that just provides like improv like I've never seen in other films. Stuff this funny that they're coming up with on the spot.
Well, and for some of the people, it goes back even further, you know, because Eugene and Catherine worked on SCTV together, so they have their own sort of relationship before they started working on the Christopher Guest movies, you know?
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned Mitch and Mickey.
Yeah.
The Folksmen were all at one point together on SNL. Michael McKean, Christopher Guest, and Harry Shearer.
So a fun fact a lot of people don't know is that the Folksmen started on Saturday Night Live in 1984, when Michael McKean came on and hosted during promotion for Spinal Tap, when Christopher Guest and Harry Shearer were cast members of SNL. And that was the birth of the Folksmen, because they didn't want to do a Spinal Tap sketch. They did a Folksmen sketch.
Yeah, that's right. And not only were they doing it on SNL, they were doing it live. Well, they toured as Spinal Tap during that same time, and they actually had the Folksmen open for them, and they were booed off the stage in some cases because people didn't realize it was the same 3 dudes just doing a different joke. Yeah, the Folksmen have been a thing for quite a while, for damn near 20 years. Well, prior to the movie, and now, like we said, another 20 years until now.
They do reuse a few songs from the first SNL sketch in this movie. Did you catch that, Justin?
I did catch that. Yeah, even the songs were somewhat existing at the time. I think they changed the lyrics a little bit, yeah.
But it's still very impressive that the concepts and the overall tone of these things remains pretty similar to how they turned out in 2003.
Oh, yeah, sure.
For example, here's a clip of Barnyard Symphony as played on Saturday Night Live.
Cow goes moo, and the pig goes, and the chickens go chick-a-dick-a-dee. ruff and the cat goes meow. It's a barnyard symphony.
And then, of course, we get the Barnyard Symphony during the concert at the end of A Mighty Wind.
And the chickens cluck.
The horses neigh.
Crickets go fiddle-dee-dee.
Yes, they do. And the bullfrogs croak.
The pigs oink oink.
It's a barnyard symphony. Thank you so much.
Just Christopher Guest's quavering voice that he connects with so many times as a member of this band. I love it so much. It's so perfect for this kind of music.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring that up with a specific clip later on, but yes.
Oh, yeah. I think I know which one it might be.
It's the one to use.
It's the
for
one.
that. And the second song from that SNL sketch, they actually refer to as a different title in the sketch called Old 97, but in the film, it is Blood on the Coal. So let's take a listen to the original version from 1984, Old 97.
Blood on the tracks, blood in the mine. Brothers and sisters, what a terrible time. Old 97 went in the wrong hole. Now in my number 60, there's blood on the coal. Blood on the coal. Blood on the coal. Really make that swell.
I really like this song. It's honestly one of my favorite Folksmen songs.
It's a legitimately good song, and you can tell, like, early in the SNL days, the joke was just that they were doing an accurate parody of these 60s folk groups. Like, the lyrics weren't another layer of being funny. It was just, like, legitimately, oh yeah, they wrote songs about stuff like train wrecks, which, by the way, that was a real train wreck. It was a massive tragedy. I don't remember what year it happened, but Train Line 97, Old 97, and the band, the Old 97s, is also named after this.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So like legitimately, like, that there wasn't even really, if you took it out of context, there wasn't a joke there. They just wrote a folk song like how you would have written a folk song.
Well, I think that's honestly the Christopher Guest style, is that he's not necessarily writing jokes. He's writing real-ish people for the most part.
Sure. Yeah, that's why you laugh. You go, I know someone like that. But what makes him better than anyone else at this is he finds a way to make everything also a little joke.
Sure.
There's so much sharp writing that goes on, even in these heavily improv movies, that still, like, I don't think just anybody could do this. It is a real special gift.
For sure. The packets of material that each performer is given about their character has to be astounding for this. Because I listened to the DVD commentary tracks, and they're just talking about all of this shit that is not even in the movie. It's never brought up. It's not brought up in deleted scenes. It's not brought up anywhere. But it's just like, oh yeah, we just had all of this material for every one of these characters, just so that way everybody knew them in and out. Yeah.
World building stuff. I have to imagine with a group like this, also everybody's contributing to their characters' backstories too.
For sure. In the commentary track, Christopher Guest says that he didn't know what Eugene was going to sound like until he showed up on set and did the voice of Mitch.
Oh, wow.
He didn't know that was going to happen because apparently they don't have rehearsals for these movies. They just show up and do it.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, he took a big swing, but it works. It works great.
Yeah.
The funniest thing about his character, the way he plays his character, is just all the times where Mitch and Mickey are in complete disagreement over, like, what's going on. I mean, they bring this to a head at the end where they both think that the other one led the other one on. Mm-hmm. But, like, anytime, like, she tells, like, a sweet story or something, like, there was the one about the song he wrote whenever he was in, his mouth was wired shut, and he was like, I just wanted a drink of water.
I will say that Christopher Guest didn't know that she was going to read that poem until she pulled it out and read it.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff the people in the cast do in his movies.
Anyway, here's the soundtrack version of Blood on the Coal. It sounds pretty similar.
Blood on the tracks, blood in the mine. Brothers and sisters, what a terrible time.
terrible time.
97 went in the wrong hole. Now in my number 60, there's blood on the coal.
I love that harmonizing right there. Mm-hmm. It's really good.
Dude, you're totally right. This is a great song. I mean, all of these songs are legitimately good songs.
They really are.
But yeah, it's just I don't know. I said it before, and I can't say it better now. It's a legitimate song, and that's what makes it funny. It's kind of the same thing as what the Lonely Island guys do. It's music first, and that's what allows them to be funny.
Yes,
is because the music it's not taking you out of the real world at all.
Well, that's that's the benefit of all of that world building before you get in there and shoot. Having watched all of the special features on the DVD and consumed all of the commentary tracks, it's interesting how much is left on the floor, because there's just so much information that we as audiences don't get. For example, like Paul Dooley's character, the founder of the Main Street Singers, he spilled spaghetti on the front of his shirt for one of the album covers, so he decided to hold a guitar. That character doesn't know how to play the guitar, so anytime you see him in the new Main Street Singers, he's just holding the guitar because he still doesn't know how to play it.
I mean, I did notice that he wasn't doing anything.
That's why.
But so you're saying the in-universe reason he has a guitar in the first place is because he spilled spaghetti on his shirt.
On the front of his shirt and covered it with a guitar.
Holy cow. Take note, directors, this is what makes films rewarding.
Right.
Is having stuff like this that you can watch it again and again and again and go, oh, I just caught it. That guy's whole backstory is a spaghetti stain.
Well, at least his guitar playing, or lack thereof.
Well, yeah.
Pretty great.
I love the new Main Street Singers, the reformed version of the Main Street Singers. And this is like a thing that folk groups did because it was like generational. They were legitimate bands with new in the title because they were the new version of some act that had, toured pre-recording times.
So we've mentioned all three of the bands, and we really just blew right through what this movie is about. So Dustin, explain the film A Mighty Wind for those who might not know.
It takes place contemporarily in 2003 when it was released, and it's these three folk groups that all had the same manager back in the day, and they were all big in the 1960s folk revival wave, and that's a real thing.
Yes.
But they basically they all get a call that their old manager has passed away and his son is putting together a tribute show for him. And so it's the first time these guys are all playing together in a very, very long time.
And hilarity ensues from there. You meet their current managers and all of these eccentric people like PR folks and all kinds of background people that work at the theater and are, helping stage everything. And it is so good and so funny.
And the behind the scenes stuff in particular gets me so hard as a behind the scenes worker. Mm-hmm. The two that stand out, the technical director in the video control room in the truck.
Yeah.
When Ed Begley Jr.'s character is saying like, oh, do we have a crane? And he's like, no, we don't have a crane. This is PBS.
Be really nice if we had a crane.
Yeah, sure would be nice. Which I think that is spot on, if a little less grumpy than a real TD. And then the other one is the guy, the operations manager at the theater when Bob Balaban is following him around.
Yes.
And asking him all these stupid questions about the 3D light post with the non-3D banjo in front. When he just gets sick of it and thwacks him in the head.
The commentary track, Christopher Guest explains that they had to cut away immediately because the entire crew burst out laughing. It was the only time that he did that, and it was so funny.
So even that was an improv. So I mentioned the 60s folk revival thing, and I just want to talk about that a little bit, I guess, before we dive into the specific music from this.
Okay. Sure.
Because like I said, it was a real time. So folk music in America, as far as recorded popular music, folk music obviously means in its nature just the music of the people, songs we sang around campfires and shit. Eventually that turned into artists like Woody Guthrie in the 20s, 30s, 40s with his songs like This Land Is Your Land. That kind of music went out of favor for a while and experienced a big upswing in the late 50s, early 60s. Same time kind of as a lot of the music we've talked about on this show. Same time as doo-wop and rock and roll and all that was going on. There was this counter thing of folk music going on. And I think it split off pretty quickly in all kinds of directions. you get artists like Peter, Paul, and Mary, who were like the quintessential like hippie folk. Like they had like peace was always a central message, stuff like that. And then other artists were more like bluegrass inspired, more like old time Appalachian music. And I think that's more where you get into like what they're trying to parody with the Folksmen.
Okay.
But just to cover it, I mean, out of this folk revival, we eventually got a big change in pop music. We got Bob Dylan.
Loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a change.
In 1965.
That's a good song.
That is a good song. A little bit later in 1969, Joni Mitchell.
Ooh. Love some Joni.
Her voice is so elastic and cool sounding.
I know. It's really cool.
Don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot.
And then you got something like this, one of my personal favorite folk rock songs. This is later in the early 70s, Cat Stevens.
Oh, I can't keep it in. I can't keep it in. I've got to let it out.
And these are all, like, there's the trend here is these are all singular artists, but it's very much that same type of music, the same inspiration. They've just pared it down. They've gotten rid of all the extra players in the band. Or not gotten rid of them. They're still there. They just don't have names anymore. They've parlayed it into pop music where you have to have the central superstar or whatever. But Shawn, there's another artist who was active around this time, and I think you know this song.
Is it Adam Levine?
I wish it was Adam Levine. I wish this was our Adam Levine time travel episode, but I don't know if we're going to get to him in this one. I truly don't. But I thought of this song immediately when we decided to talk about this movie, because not only is it a folk song from 1966, but it is the theme song to another fantastic mockumentary that totally wouldn't exist without Christopher Guest.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Don't sing if you want to live long. They have no use for your song. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead and out of this world.
Man, do I love What We Do in the Shadows.
And that was Norma Tanega with her song You're Dead from her album Walkin' My Cat Named Dog. But I just wanted to play that because I feel like we're going to get into some like schlockier folk music, because I think that's more what they're parodying in A Mighty Wind. But just a gentle reminder that there was really cool music also coming out of this very same scene.
I will say, given the fact that this came out in 2003, and folk music not being super popular at the given time, the fact that this hit number 20 on the Billboard soundtrack charts is pretty impressive.
I know, right?
The soundtrack got a couple of nominations as well. It was nominated for Best Soundtrack at the Grammys, and the song A Mighty Wind won Best Song at the Grammys. And Kiss at the End of the Rainbow was nominated for an Academy Award for Original Song, and the winner that year went to Into the West by Annie Lennox from Return of the King, which dominated the Academy Awards that year. So,
Return of the King sure did. Yeah.
Here is a small clip of their performance. They did it in character. Eugene and Catherine O'Hara.
That's right.
Both performed, which is pretty great.
Oh, when the veil of dreams has lifted and the fairy tales have all been told, there's a kiss at the end of the rainbow, more precious than a pot of gold.
So Mitch and Mickey were based on I couldn't find one group that was like, oh, this is the same thing, but I think there were a lot of man and woman couple folk groups in the 60s, and it would go on and on to be perfected until Captain and Tennille. I did find a couple of artists that I wanted to play here just to show the Mitch and Mickey thing in real life. This one is by Ian and Sylvia. It's called You Were on My Mind.
Got up this morning, you were on my mind, and you were on my mind.
Pretty simple lyrically. You Were on My Mind. And then here's another one, Richard and Mimi Farina, Pack Up Your Sorrows. I thought this one sounded quite a bit like Mitch and Mickey.
But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows and give them all to me,
Yeah, sure, I can see this one a little bit more. This one definitely has the auto harp in there. Did the other one have the auto harp?
The other one might have had an auto harp. I couldn't tell for sure. This one definitely the auto harp, and it definitely has the split, really high-low vocal thing going on in the same style as Mitch and Mickey. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was like directly an artist they were thinking of when they came up with those characters.
One thing that I really love about this movie is how often the actors are singing and playing their instruments live for the camera. And when I watched the DVD commentary track, I was rewarded to find out that was the case for nearly every piece of music played in this movie outside of the first time that we see the Folksmen when they're in black and white. And Christopher Guest explains that they're not playing right there because if they were on that show, it would have been lip synced.
Oh, that's true. That's right. In the old times, yeah.
But for the stuff like at the concert at the end, all of that was a real concert. It was them actually playing. And I have a little bit of a commentary track of Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy talking about that process. You're going to hear a little bit of the new Main Street Singers lead into it.
Never did no wondering after all. No, I never did no wondering after all.
And again, this is live.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments here in these cuts where you have to use other takes, which became very difficult. We did, let's say, 3 takes for each song, but because if you were doing this to a click track or to a pre-record, it would be the same every time, but the tempos varied, so it became, you have to then rock back and forth to try to make the different intercuts work.
Cool insight there.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, you can tell that they did record it that way because it sounds just like it should. Like, you can just tell these people are playing their instruments. As far as I can tell, everyone who plays an instrument in this movie is actually playing it, or at least actually knows how to play it, if it's being covered in some way.
Yes. For example, Catherine O'Hara learned to play the auto harp. Parker Posey learned how to play the mandolin. She was taught by a famous mandolin player by the name of Barry Mitterhoff, who is quite well known and played the mandolin on the You've Got Mail soundtrack, which I find pretty cool. Yeah.
Nice. Again, we get into these experts. Whenever you got that movie money, you can bring in who's the greatest mandolin player in the world?
You got to get Barry Mitterhoff in here.
Yeah, get Mitterhoff.
That's a good enough sign for me to start talking about the new Main Street Singers full on here, Dustin. We've been sort of bouncing around and everything. Let's really nail down the new Main Street Singers.
Let's zero it in on the new Main Street Singers.
So I paid pretty good attention while we were watching this thing. So I have a couple of album titles and random songs and things like that folks may have missed. So in case you were unaware, the Main Street Singers throughout their course of time have released over 30 albums, though we only get the names of 3 of them in the film. We get Strolling Down Main Street, which is their first record. We get Songs of Good Cheer. And then in 1968, they released Sunny Side Up.
Okay.
And in my research, I found out that they are largely a parody of those massive ensemble folk groups like New Christie Minstrels, for example. A band that featured people the likes of Kenny Rogers and Kim Carnes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know Kenny Rogers.
At certain times, okay? That's the crazy thing about this band. Their list of band members on their wiki is over 300 people throughout their course of being a band.
Wow. Like, this is not, we're not talking about like Skinner replacing a few members who died or whatever. This is, people are rotating. It's a troupe, really.
I was honestly not super familiar with this band, so I decided to listen to some of it before coming in here. I found this song Green Green, and I would like to play a little clip of it because it reminds me of a particular New Main Street Singers song.
Okay.
So that was Green Green. And it reminds me of Main Street Rag by the New Main Street Singers.
Oh, like a whole lot.
Right?
Like already, they're pretty much copying it.
We're walking down the main street, everybody's gonna see.
Right when I heard that Green song, I was like, holy fuck, that's the Main Street Rag.
Yeah, definitely is. Yeah. I think the new Main Street Singers are, of the three, the shiniest, poppiest group. It's implied that maybe they have the least substance of any of them, or the least like folk credibility. It's a lot more like church style music, which they bring into these characters. There's like a bit of a like religious undertone. There's also like some mystical new age religion stuff going on. Yeah, the wink.
Yeah. So while I was listening to New Christy Minstrels, I noticed another song that sounded a little bit like a fictional artist that we talked about a few weeks ago, and I can't resist playing the song for you right now, Dustin. It's called 3 Wheels on My Wagon.
3 wheels on my wagon, and I'm still rolling.
Coconut Pete vibes, anyone?
The Cherokees are chasing me.
Yeah, this guy sings like Bill Paxton.
I got really happy when I found this.
That's very Coconut Pete.
And then I thought, oh man, I've never heard that song before. Wonder where that came from. Turns out it was written in 1961 by Bob Hilliard, who did the lyrics, and Burt Bacharach, who did the music for it. And they wrote this song for Dick Van Dyke.
Wow.
3 wheels on my wagon, and I'm still rolling along. The Cherokees are chasing me, arrows fly right on by, but I'm singing a happy song.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Dick Van Dyke, who, by the way, is, I think, currently holding the timeline together as the oldest famous person that I can think of that's still alive.
May he live another 100 years.
I hope so. Yeah, man. Oh, this movie has been an endless well of blasts from the past.
Yes.
Like I don't think I was prepared for just how, influential all of these like folk acts that I'd never heard of would end up being, and how referential this whole thing is to all of their work.
The New Main Street Singers have quite a few songs on this soundtrack, but if you want the best New Main Street Singers song for my money, it's got to be Potatoes in the Paddy Wagon, and it goes a little something like this.
One night Mama went to fetch us up, a sweet potato fell down the cellar stairs.
Stork dropped in while she was on the floor, so my sister was born down there.
Daddy said this will be nothing but a misery, never will be worth a damn.
But Mama just loved her little sweet potato baby with a face like a parboiled yam.
Come on, boys, potatoes in the paddy wagon, gotta get her out of there. Come on, boys, potatoes in the paddy wagon, Mama says it just ain't fair.
Big fan of that song. I listen to it all the time.
Yeah, that's like an old-timey front porch jam.
Yeah, it totally is.
That one's got a little more folk cred than some of their other songs. Some of their other ones are more on that poppy side I was talking about. But I feel like that one really does have like a down home sort of feeling. So the song from real life that I think of when I think of the New Main Street Singers as, again, sort of the pop-oriented folk band is the Rooftop Singers with their song Walk Right In. Do you know this one?
Right in, sit right down.
Yes, I do. I didn't know it before it started. Like, I didn't know it by name.
Sure.
Daddy, let your mind roll.
Yeah, a lot of times you're safe guessing that whatever they say the most is the name of the song with these folk songs. They like to keep it simple. What do you say in the chorus again? Walk right in? Yeah, this song's called Walk Right In. But it's got that happy bounciness. It's definitely not like laden with feelings like the Mitch and Mickey stuff, nor is it with old time bluegrass influence like the Folksmen stuff. It's just sort of, this is folk music, but we've also turned it into radio music. And that's, to me, what they're getting at with the New Main Street Singers. But yeah, you're right, Shawn. I think that song is the best bang for buck when it comes to the New Main Street Singers. Because, I mean, not to be a a downer here, but we're definitely not going to be able to talk about every single song from this movie in today's episode, or we'd be here for 3 hours.
What do you say we move on to some Mitch and Mickey action?
Mitch and Mickey, the center of everyone's attention at the end of the film.
Yes, played by Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, if we haven't made that clear throughout the episode. Just to get a little bit of information about them out there at the top of the discussion. Albums for Mitch and Mickey include Meet Mitch and Mickey, Together Forever. From the DVD, we get the album title of Over the Moon. And then from the movie itself, we get their last album title of When You're Next to Me. And then Mitch had 2 solo records called...
These are my favorite pieces of artwork in the movie.
They are so good.
Solo album covers.
Eugene Levy talks about in the commentary how they shot all the album covers a few weeks before the shooting of the movie.
Oh, really?
It really helped him internalize the timeline of the character.
Oh, wow. That's great. I don't remember what the first one is now, but the second one where he's like digging his own grave.
That one's called Calling It Quits. That was his last album.
Quits.
Yes. But his first album was called A Cry for Help, with songs such as Anyone But You, If I Had a Gun, and May She Rot in Hell.
That's right. Yeah. Their breakup was not an amicable one.
No. Earlier, I played you a live clip of them performing on the Oscars, but I would like to play a little snippet of the soundtrack recording as well.
My sweet, my dear, my darling, you're so far away from me. Though an ocean of tears divides us, let the bridge of our love span the sea.
Catherine sounds so good on this recording.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. This song was, a lot of these songs were written by the people who sing them, but this song was actually written by Michael McKean and his real-life wife, actress Annette O'Toole.
That's true.
So A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow is their hit. Each of these bands has kind of one big hit from the past, but there are other Mitch and Mickey songs in the film in various ways. Did you have any others you wanted to get to, Shawn?
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on the song When You're Next to Me, because they had a rehearsal scene featuring this song that was cut. And they had a full concert performance of this song that was cut. It was supposed to be before A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow. So they were supposed to have one song to perform before the big hit.
That makes sense.
That performance is on the DVD, so I have that for us.
When I'm standing next to you, there's a song to sing. I know everything's feeling right. When I'm standing next to you, steeple bells ring, only good things do I see.
Eugene sounds great in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, so does Catherine. They both sound awesome.
Yes.
And this song was actually written by the two of them. So again, everybody contributed.
It's cool that even though all of the scenes involving this song were cut, they still found a way to bring it back for the closing credits of the movie. It wasn't a totally lost track at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's one of those painful things you have to do as a director. Kill your darlings, as they say, and cut stuff that is good because it probably didn't, move the story along quickly enough. We're in the third act at that point. Props to them for figuring out a way to keep it in the movie somehow.
I feel like it's also a product of not knowing what the movie is fully going to be, because it's such an improvisational film that you don't know what you're going to need. So you just get everything.
Yeah.
And then you figure out how to use the stuff, and you end up losing so much because it just doesn't fit the puzzle at the end of the day.
Yeah, I guess the trick to a good mockumentary is shooting a documentary, which is thousands of hours of footage. Everything at the concert I thought was great.
Super great.
They're going back and forth to Mitch and Mickey on stage and the Folksmen in the dressing room. Yeah, it plays like a real event.
Yes, it totally does.
So that brings us around to the band we kind of opened the show with. The main event, in my mind, the Folksmen.
They're the main event in my mind, too. So that's I totally get it.
This is the band that's made up of Harry Shearer as Mark Shub, which I think is a great even the names, having believably like drab names, like Mark Shub, I think is great. Michael McKean as Jerry Poulter and Christopher Guest as Alan Barrows.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Together, they are the Folksmen. It started off as a duo, according to them. It was originally just Mark and Alan, but they provided a vocal range that was both too high and too low, so they brought in Jerry Poulter to be sort of the lead singer in the middle.
It didn't hurt that he was good looking.
And it didn't hurt that he was good looking. That's true. That's true.
We do get a couple of album titles in the film, such as Singin', Wishin', and Pickin'. On the DVD special features, we get 3 more. Hitchin', Ramblin', and their one and only electric album, Say Anything, which apparently did not go well and features the cut from the movie song, Children of the Sun.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You can fly to heaven on the wings of a gun. Sing the children of the sun, of the sun.
That is the Folksmen performing that song on a fictional show called In the Groove.
Yeah, so that's supposed to be a cut from their later career, I guess, when folk music was going out and everybody was electrifying and trying to find a different way to present their product. I think it's still a good song.
Oh, yeah, totally.
These guys, more than any other band, I feel like I was able to find sort of some of the real-life bands that the Folksmen were at least winking and nodding at, if not based on.
Okay.
The ones I came up with, a group called, and this is confusing, they're called the New Lost City Ramblers, although I don't think there was a Lost City Ramblers before that. I think they always had the new in the title.
Okay.
Not like the new Main Street Singers. But they were kind of known as rejecting the pop swing that everybody else was going with. They were a little more roots, a little more mountain music. This is one of their tracks called When First Unto This Country.
I rode to see mine Nancy, I rode both day and night. I courted dearest Nancy, my own heart's true delight.
A little more bluegrassy than even the Folksmen, but I was trying to find folk acts from the 60s that used banjo specifically, because banjo was kind of the thing that stood out to me in the Folksmen. I can't find any acts that actually used an upright bass. I think that's purely an aesthetic choice that they made for the film. A great one, by the way.
I like it.
Another song that these guys, the New Lost City Ramblers, were known for. You might recognize this one, Shawn, and we might talk about this song along with others on a future episode. Auto harp in this one, by the way.
I am a man of constant sorrow.
Oh, yes, I know this song.
Yeah,
Yes.
you do know.
I'm sure we will be talking about this very song in another episode.
So that was the New Lost City Ramblers. They were, I think, a little earlier. All the clips are in black and white, is what I'm trying to say. So 40s, 50s is when they came around. And then the other bands that I saw referenced over and over for this whole 60s revival thing is a group called The Weavers. I'm going to play you a little clip of their most famous song, Goodnight Irene. And I'm mostly playing it for a specific reason.
I'll see you in my dreams. We learned this song, Irene, from a friend of ours.
And it's because they do the thing that the Folksmen do whenever they're asked to stretch for time in the movie, and that's like a very like folk band thing to do. Slow things down whether the music keeps playing or not, but to like tell you the story. Because that's what folk songs are. They're stories. These are storytellers. Just, again, pointing out little nods to the past.
Well, that Barnyard Symphony is like a legitimate folk trope that they used to do of like painfully dividing up the audience and then forcing them to sing parts of the song.
Yeah.
That was like a live part of folk music.
By our youth, I guess folk music had become sort of kid music because that felt like a very kid thing to do.
Totally. Rafi, who I've mentioned before, I think, is a very folky kid singer that we grew up with.
Very successful, yeah. Folk artist specifically for kids.
Yeah.
So anyway, just bring my thoughts to a close here, the final band that I saw referenced over and over was this band, the Kingston Trio. And I feel like more than any other group, the Folksmen are based on the Kingston Trio. They sort of look similar to how the Folksmen dressed in their old-time performances. Here's a clip of one of their songs, Tom Dooley, live from 1958. Again, banjo is in this band.
Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Oh boy, you're bound to die. I met her on the mountain. There I took her life. Met her on the mountain.
There I took her life. There were a lot of like really dark lyrics in these songs if you actually listen to them. But that was common. It would be either someone who was taken from you or like a crime you committed. Like the whole like I shot the sheriff thing.
Yeah.
That harkens back to this.
Johnny Cash killed hundreds of people in his songs.
Yeah. Outlaw country was outlaw folk first, or was just folk first.
That's wild.
But I do think that setup as a trio with a banjo definitely reminded me of the Folksmen. And all of these bands, by the way, the Weavers, the Kingston Trio, and Peter, Paul, and Mary as well, probably one of the most famous folk acts, were going through reunions in the 80s, and that is what made these ideas come to these guys.
That was specifically the inspiration for the Saturday Night Live sketch.
Yeah, was all the reunion stuff that was going on in the 80s.
One of my favorite fun facts about the Folksmen, I don't know if you came across this or not, but the joke in the movie about their record company pressing one of their records without the hole in the center.
Yeah.
Did you come across that being a real story?
No. I just assumed it was a great improv.
No, there's a band that actually did that in 1987. They're called Gay Bikers on Acid, and they released an album called Drill Your Own Hole.
Really? Oh, so they did it on purpose.
Yes. The B side, when you flipped it over, had a little circle indicated where you're supposed to put the hole.
I mean, okay. I guess it's interesting. I don't know if it sells records.
I bet it didn't. But, try whatever gimmicks you want.
That's funny. I had no idea that had any basis in reality.
Mm-hmm. Earlier in the episode, I played the New Main Street Singers live concert version of Never Did No Wanderin'.
But that's not their song. The Folksmen wrote that song, and they were pissed when the New Main Street Singers took it from them.
My mama was the cold north wind. My daddy was the son of a railroad man from western hell, where the trains don't even run.
I love the emphasis on the hell there.
Of a southbound freight, or the singing of its driving wheel. No, I never did no wandering, never did no wandering, never did no wandering after all.
I love that mandolin here too. That's so good. And just in case you want your teeth brushed, let's go ahead and have a reminder of what the New Main Street Singers sound like.
My mother was the cold north wind. My daddy was the son of a railroad man.
I do like that.
They really are like the Glee version, though. It's good, but it's way sillier.
Oh, yeah.
I totally get why the Folksmen were pissed. And I think it's a good payoff that they don't play it, because you get to hear it so many times in rehearsal. Like, it's the one you always hear them rehearsing leading up to it. So you're with them. You're like, oh, I can't wait to hear this whole song. And then these fuckers go on stage and do it first. And they're like, what the hell? So in addition to all the songs we hear in the movie, they did play as the Folksmen live on some TV shows to promote A Mighty Wind when it came out. And I think one of them that they did was the Rolling Stones cover of Start Me Up on Conan O'Brien's show.
If you start me up, baby, start me up, will never stop. If you start me up, baby, start me up, will never stop. I've been running hard, you got me ticking, gonna blow my top. Baby, start me up, baby, start me up, will never stop. You make a grown man cry
You make a grown man cry. To make a grown man cry.
Turn out the oil, the gasoline. I ride smooth. She's a clean machine.
You know what that makes me think of is a sort of similar thing was going on in wider music pop culture at the time. Shawn, have you ever heard of a group called Hayseed Dixie?
Yes.
Yeah. So their whole thing is, I mean, it started out as they were an AC/DC exclusive cover band. They did bluegrass versions. They've since done just about every classic rock album you can think of. But Hayseed Dixie, they sound a little bit like this.
Living easy, living free, season ticket on a one-way ride. Asking nothing, you leave me be. I'm taking everything in my stride. Don't need reasons, don't need rhyme. There ain't nothing that I'd rather do. I'm going down, it's party time. Yeah, my friends are gonna be there too. On the highway to hell.
Which, I mean, this stuff, like, this is everywhere now on YouTube and TikTok, like people doing like genre variations on classic songs. But I think it was pretty new in the early 2000s to do stuff like that. It was pretty much like those guys and what's the guy, Richard Cheese.
Oh yeah.
So should we move on to the Folksmen's big hit? They say so much in the movie that it is their hit song
that hit number 17 on the charts in 1965.
Old Joe's Place.
Whenever I'm out a-wandering, chasing a rainbow dream, I often stop and think about a place I've never seen,
where friendly folks can gather and raise the rafters high,
with songs and tales of yesteryear until they say goodbye.
Well, there's a puppy.
This is the waiver song. This is what we were talking about earlier. This is the waiver song.
On the table, but you gotta say grace. There's always something cooking at old.
Yeah, I don't know how he does that waiver, but it is so good to my ears. Oh my God, so do I love it.
And it's so funny because, again, it's like, feels real. Like, these, I guess what Christopher Guest does, I've made all these different pronouncements throughout this episode. Okay, this is what makes him special. But now I've landed on, he just does like people on PBS, like public television people.
Yeah, his character work is so good. He finds these little minute character traits and he's like, you know, he just heard that wobble from one person on a folk album and was like, oh, you know what? I can do that. I can match that. Let's try this little wobble. Oh, it sounds really cool. I'm gonna fucking do this wobble for this character.
It's so good. Yeah, Old Joe's Place. Everybody gets a little moment to shine in that one. He gets that, and Harry Shearer gets the and Mark Shub gets the E-I-O's.
Yeah.
Which I love. The little smirk he does after that, sort of like, I know it's a silly joke, because it just makes it play as that much more real.
Yeah.
I also love that, like you said, it was a number 17 hit. Like it's their big hit, but it wasn't like, it didn't like storm the world or anything. This was concurrent with like Elvis. Everybody else was listening to Elvis for sure, but some people were listening to the Folksmen, you know?
Yep. That leaves us with one final track to go over, the title track of the movie. It is performed by all three of the folk bands to close out the concert. And I want to start with the alternate version of this from the live broadcast. I have a couple of clips that I want to play from that.
Oh, mighty winds are blowing, it's kicking up the sand, it's rolling out a message to everyone, child and man.
There are three basses on stage during this. It's almost as much as Big Bottom.
That's a fun interjection.
The commentary for all of the deleted scenes and the movie itself are all just so good. I could have just continued to play clips from the commentary throughout this whole thing. It's so good that I have another commentary clip from the same song just real quick.
When the blind man sees the picture, when the deaf man hears the word, when the fisherman stops fishing, when
I think Catherine forgot her harmony on that one.
the wondrous story of a world where people care, the story of this mighty wind that's blowing everywhere.
Oh, a mighty wind.
That's funny.
You know, it's funny. I caught that she sounded a little off there, but I chalk that up to like being in universe. Like, well, Mitch and Mickey were kind of the most separated from this type of folk music, so they probably didn't know the song that well.
Well, the explanation for everybody knowing the song in the commentary track is that this is the most well-known folk song that all of them agreed to play together at the end of the concert.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So I would like for you to hear that exact part again from the movie version of the concert, not the soundtrack version, the movie version, because I really like the way Catherine O'Hara ends Mitch and Mickey's part of that song.
When the blind man sees the picture, when the deaf man hears the word, when the fisherman stops fishing, when the hunter spares the herd, we'll still hear the wondrous story of a world where people care. The story of this mighty wind that's blowing everywhere.
That, like, hard hinting everywhere is so good. I wish that was on the soundtrack version, but I'm about to play it for you. You're gonna hear it. It's not there. It's another different version. I love how many different versions
third version
are
of the song.
in this fucking movie.
When the blind man sees the picture, when the deaf man hears the word, when the fisherman stops fishing, when the hunter spares the herd, we'll still hear the wondrous story of a world where people care. Story of this mighty wind that's blowing everywhere.
Oh, the mighty winds are blowing, it's kicking up the sand, it's blowing out a message to every woman, child, and man.
I know that I've been super hung up on all of the different versions and the way that they all sound different and the speeds in which they're performed and all of that stuff, but it's been the most fascinating part of the preparation for this show for me.
Because it's so cool, because it's what makes it like they're real bands.
Sure.
Because it's real. It's what would happen in real life. You don't get the same performance ever. I mean, nowadays you do, because people just straight up track everything.
Right.
Again, just lends credence to the broader picture of these as real bands in a world, and it fills everything out that there are 3 different takes of just that same song by the same people.
This is also my favorite song on the soundtrack. It's the one that I listen to the most. It's the one that gets stuck in my head the most. I love how all 3 of them sound like they belong in this song. It doesn't lean any one direction, you know. It's a very clean arrangement, this song.
Yeah, for sure. This song reminds me of maybe the most well-known, like I said, folk act of all time, Peter, Paul, and Mary, of their If I Had a Hammer. But it's got that same upbeat style to it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
I mean, more than upbeat, it's like an anthem.
Yeah.
I feel like that song, A Mighty Wind, is, if it's referencing anything, it's referencing a couple Peter, Paul, and Mary tracks. But If I Had a Hammer, in its style and Blowing in the Wind, just in the name.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have anything else on the song or on the Folksmen?
I don't think so. Rest in peace, Fred Willard.
Oh,
that's all I have left to say.
You're missed every day, sir. Well, with the show almost over, Dustin, I have a question to ask you, but it's not the question that you may think. We're doing a new question this week.
Oh, I had my answers ready for that one. Okay.
Fuck, marry, kill the 3 bands in this movie.
Ooh.
But also, just because I'm curious, would you listen to any of them if they were real?
I mean, I do listen to them, for sure. I think I made it pretty clear throughout this, especially the Folksmen. I think the Folksmen is really, really good music. They're all great songs because they're all perfect parodies of what they're going for. But because of that, the style of the Mitch and Mickey stuff and the new Main Street Singer stuff is not quite my cup of tea. But Folksmen, 100%. So that said, the old, filthy sounding game, fuck, marry, kill. Okay. Just to be clear, this is not actually sexual. Well, based on what I just said, I'm going to give Folksmen the marry spot.
Okay.
Want them around forever. And, I guess I'll have to say, yeah, I'm surprised I'm saying it. Fuck the new Main Street Singers.
Oh.
And kill Mitch and Mickey. Because, the slow ballads are not really my thing. I think that's been established in a couple of previous episodes. But the new Main Street, like you said, they do some interesting stuff. It's fun to listen to, if not the most inspired. How about you, Shawn? Where are you going to place these 3 acts?
Honestly, I thought that it might lean a little bit different, but it's exactly the same. I would marry the Folksmen, I would fuck the new Main Street Singers, and then I would have to get rid of Mitch and Mickey, just because that's not really the style. I love the Mitch and Mickey songs. I do listen to them. I love this whole soundtrack, but those songs are the least like what I listen to in my normal existence.
I mean, in a way, they're the most what I think of when I just think of on the surface of like 60s folk. They're kind of the most that, but in the same way, the others are the more real version of that I like more.
And I agree with you in terms of my real life listening habits. If the Folksmen were real, their songs lean more toward my ear.
Shawn, I've seen them live. Did you know that?
I did know that. Yes. You and Paul.
Yeah, that's right. Paul Getz of 2 episodes ago fame from the mixtape. He and I got to go to Nashville in 2009 and see both the Folksmen and Spinal Tap on their unwigged and unplugged tour. So it was pretty much the Folksmen as you see them in the movie, and then it was kind of an interesting new way of Spinal Tap where they were playing acoustic instruments.
That's pretty fun, man.
It was super cool. I hope they do a tour like that again someday.
The entire cast, all 3 of these bands, went on a little mini tour after the movie came out.
They did, yeah.
I would have killed to see that. I'm super jealous of anyone that got to go to those shows.
Yeah. Oh, man, that would have been so cool to go to.
Well, Dustin, it feels like a mighty wind is blowing this episode to a close. So why don't we wrap this baby up into a nice little bow and just say thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you had a great time. And if you did, please leave us a rating or review on whatever platform you're currently listening to this on.
Yeah, that's right. And stop by our website, fictionradiopod.com. For links to all of our social media and places to hear the episodes, and drop us a line at fictionradiopod@gmail.com if you have some fictional bands you'd like us to talk about in the future.
Watching movies, jamming out. KFlix 198.4 Fiction Radio.